everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Rebecca and I'm gonna do my first tarot tag video. I've been on YouTube since 2019 and I love tarot, and I've never done one of these because, and I've wanted to, and the reason I haven't is because I'll see all these tarot tags like decks for decades. That was one I really wanted to do, and I thought, well, I don't have decks that I feel like represent these decades of my life. I don't have enough decks, or I haven't been doing this long enough, or lots of other extremely invalidating schools of thought that invalidate me and my experience and my validity in this community now, even though I may not have as much experience as some of the lovely folks who are on here. And the same was true for this tag. I really wanted to do Dani Mystics. Her channel's linked. Her decks for decades, or not decks for decades. I really wanted to do Dani Mystics, myclassics decks, and I didn't feel like I could because I haven't been reading for 10 plus years. And a lot of the creators who I've personally watched do this video have been reading for a while, and so they have decks that have stood the test of time, that they love, that they use forwards and backwards. These are all people who have very established reading practices for themselves, for others. And though I have an established style of reading that I provide for my clients, all my links and stuff is in the description, my readings for myself are harder. I'm still working on that. And so I kept seeing this tag and I wanted to do it, but I kept thinking that I couldn't. And then I saw Candy Soul and Soil's video, which is linked up above in the cards. And Candy, if you watch this, thank you. Because your video made me think that maybe I could do this too, and kind of. So I'm going to do this video. I'm not going to have as many decks as a lot of people. I don't have 10. But I'm just going to do this video in the way that makes sense for me. And so what I've broken it down to is I'm still working on figuring out what my style is for my own personal readings. I do have a few decks though that I can tell you, since I got them, I've consistently used them. I know the style in which I use them, and I always have readings that I walk away feeling like, yes. And whereas other decks that I've got along around the same time as these end up kind of languishing a bit. So what I've done is I've picked those decks. I know their place in my practice. This is what I got from Candy Soul and Soil, so thank you for that again, Candy. I know what they brought into my life and what they continue to bring into my life by using them. And then I have a few extras that I think are kind of like the rising star kind of decks, the decks that I think will become classics. So I'm going to start with my current classics as such as they are defined now. And they're all tarot, because I'm more consistent about how I use tarot. So my first one, y'all might recognize this bag. This is my Cosma Visions oracle. Technically it's called an oracle, but it's literally the exact same tarot structure, just kind of shifted around a bit, right? So it starts, the Fool's Journey starts from the Death card and goes like kind of backwards into reincarnation, and they take the court cards and make them their own suit of being. So I very much view this as a unique tarot deck. And this one is I adore this deck. I got this, and let's go this side. I got this and I loved it. I saw Lisa talking about it, or someone was talking about it who'd done the Kickstarter for it, and I really wanted it. And I just knew, and I knew because I saw the suit of beings are spectacular. And the way it goes from death and starts onward. And the way the art is, I've been after and looking at and loved James R. Eads' artwork with the Prismavisions, but it would hurt my eyeballs. And I did get the Prismavisions. I kept saying no, and I think that's because I was drawn to his artwork, but it wasn't the deck for me. This one was. And the fact, like, the birds, I don't know what it is, but there's something about the birds and the majors that I just love. But what sold me on it was the lotuses, the cups being turned into lotuses. Those were really connected to a spiritual path I was on at the time, which I moved away from. But my love of the lotus and my attachment to the lotus followed me out of that spiritual path I was on. So I grabbed this and I love it. I've had it for, I got it in the pre-order, so I got it fairly early. So, like, I haven't had it for a year yet, but I consistently use it. And I'm one of those folks that when I want to look for a really good lotus card. This is a great one. When I get decks, I get them, I use them, I love them, and then very quickly the novelty wears off and I think, okay, and they just kind of sit because I don't really know what to do with them. And this Judgment month I've had has really blown open a lot of this spirituality stuff for me. It's been astounding. So in case anyone was wondering when I'm filming this, it's the 28th. There's still a few days left in March, and it's just been the crow. Oh, it's just been an astounding month. I can't even process it. Anyways, so this is my first classic, and I use this for working and connecting with my ancestors. And I have this amazing Peggy bag that matches it. And I get these Peggy bags that have a wrap that folds out for the decks that I view as highly sacred and highly spiritual. So that way, if I want to use them, I have like their own special place. It's like a built-in altar. So that's my first classic. And I hope that in a few years' time, I'll look back on this and I'll be like, yep, I got it right. We'll see though, because I am not future Rebecca yet. I'm still current Rebecca. So that's one. The second one I have is my Witch's Wisdom. And the funny thing is, I did a collab. I was one of the people who asked Peggy and Lisa, the video of that's linked up above in the cards, to help me say yes to the deck. And there we go. This is the Witch's Wisdom Tarot. Again, it switches the structure. I seem to like that. I have another one. Anyways, we'll get there. This is a super pagan deck, and this was on my say yes to the deck. And I said, no, not right now. And I picked a different deck, and I ordered this before the other deck I got arrived, because there's something Lisa said about journaling with this deck that I really just wanted to explore. And I got it, and I love it. I use this deck. This is my super pagan-y deck. That's how it feels to me. It feels like witchhood. It feels like paganism, at least my views on the two. And I use it for my pagan witch spirituality-based readings. So anytime there is a turn of the wheel of the year, I do a tarot reading with this deck specifically. combined with the Seasons of the Witch Oracle as they're coming out. Sorry, I'm dropping things. And I love that this deck is like nature worship and paganism wrapped in one. So I also, again, I haven't had, there's only one of these that has reached the 1 year mark that I've had them. But unlike all my other decks, including ones that I've had for longer than I've had these have been my most consistent uses. So maybe in a year or so, I'll do an update on this. Maybe this is one of those tarot tags that'll come around again. But right now, these are my classics. These are the decks that I've used consistently, that even though I've had them for months, they haven't started to languish. And that's kind of a very defining factor, because I have lots of decks that I love. You can see my tarot collection videos up above. There's a playlist. And even though I've read with them and had profound readings, they've ended up not really finding a place, in that I don't know when to reach for them. And so I don't reach for them. And I'm trying to fix that. We'll see. Number 3 of my classics, or number 2, because I am going in order. That basically, I have a number 1 classic that's just top of the charts, and the rest of these are all falling after. But this is number 2, and it's a close second. And this is my This Might Hurt Tarot. This is the only one that I've had for over a year now. I got this for my birthday last year from my kiddo after much asking. And I got this deck. I wanted it. I saw this on Lisa's channel, as I see most tarot things I see are on Lisa's channel. I saw this on her channel and I loved it. And it hit a raw spot where I was afraid to get it. Partly because I knew this would be a huge level up, and partly because this is tarot meets the modern real life, because this reflects the world we live in so well, to me, it made me as a tarot reader and a tarot lover and a witch, it made that more realistic. It was like, if I got this deck, I was admitting to the world that this is who I am. And I was scared as shit. So I waited. I looked at it for months. And then I finally decided I really wanted it. And I pulled the trigger. And I love it. My son picked this because I told him I really wanted it. This card. This was a really hard triggering card because it's so real world. Like, you can see this scene if you go out into the real world where I live any day. It brought the reality of tarot and this world I had started dipping into, screaming full stop into my life. And I had spent so long trying to separate the two. I talked about my religious trauma and shit in my tarot story, which is up above in the cards. You can check that out as well. So cards like this, where it's an everyday scene depicting a tarot meaning, I knew it would force me to grow. And at first I wasn't ready. And then I realized I was ready and I got it and I love it. And this I will use for literally anything. My favorite is to, and for clients, I use this almost every month for my patron readings. I use it with clients. I've used it for a year ahead spread. Look at that. I just fucking cut the deck to my card of the year. Sure. I've used this deck a ton. I've used it for daily spreads for months in a row. I do not get sick of this deck. And so it is a classic. And this one, I highly doubt will get knocked out of my classics because it's so easy to use and to read. And this was the first deck that I got that was an easy reader that I could just throw down and boom. So having and getting my first like easy reader that I could just throw down and it could flow. I remember the first reading I did, I did a 2-hour reading for a client, and I didn't look at the guidebook once. And I would, at the beginning of my readings with my clients who were all comfortable with it, I would refer to the guidebook to get my brain sparking, or to see if there was any additional words or messages that I was perhaps missing. I never just read the guidebook straight as is. And I'm neurodivergent. Sometimes my brain needs a little bit of a jump start. And all of my clients were fully aware and were fully okay with that. I don't do it anymore. Unless the guidebook has like poetry or something specific in it. Then I look at the guidebook because it's something extra and special. Anyway, this was the first deck where I did a 2-hour reading and I didn't even notice till I was done that I didn't have to touch the guidebook. And it was fabulous. So this rocked my tarot world. And my favorite thing, I use this for anything. Specifically, like if I'm really having a hard time and I need to pull some cards for myself and I don't know what to do, and I need that hurting sometimes, I need that ass kicking, I pull the This Might Hurt Tarot. So that's a classic. And that brings me to my number one classic. And this deck, if you've been here for a while, you're not going to be surprised. This is my Starseeker Tarot. This is my baby. It's my baby. I love her. This was the deck I picked in that Say Yes to the Deck episode. So you can go check that out and watch the experience of me picking it. And this deck, I don't even know what it does to me, but I feel it and I know it and I understand and I love it. I got this. It was my favorite unboxing. It was just all of my favorites. So that's why I had to do this as my number one classic. And I don't even know why, because it just evokes something in me. It brings something out that I don't understand. I use this for my personal readings. I use this for my moon readings. I use this for my year ahead spread clients. I use this for my personal monthly predictions. I used it for my year ahead spread. Again, like the This Might Hurt, I will use this for everything. And in fact, I was afraid that if I got this, it would knock out this. And in a way, it sort of has, in that I'll reach for this one before this one most of the time. But there are occasional times where I need a bit of a harder, I need a bit of that harder feeling, or that less spiritual message. Or sometimes a client would prefer imagery like is in the This Might Hurt. I have had many revelations about learning from these cards that help me translate messages that I'm getting from higher powers, my spiritual guides, the universe, whatever the fuck you call them. I've figured out a lot of messages through this. This is one of my favorite death cards. So, this is my number one classic, and I'm so bonded to this deck. And it's weird because even though it's a lighter color scheme, and even though I'm really learning how much dark I am, and I don't mean dark in a bad way. I just mean, I don't know how to explain it. To me, this is well balanced. And maybe that's why I love it, because this feels like a balance. It looks like a watery deck. It looks like it's highly emotional. There's a Pentacles card with water as a prominent thing. There's water is very prominent in like all throughout the deck. To me, this is a very watery, very emotional deck. But it goes so much deeper. Not that emotions aren't deep, they are. But it's fierier and it kicks your ass and it's phenomenal. So this is my number one classic. I don't think that one will ever change either. I love it too much. I don't want to live in a world where I don't love the Starseeker Tarot anymore. And I know I sound dramatic, but I don't care right now because I'm extremely attached to this deck. And now I have some, and now it's time for my Rising Star decks, as I like to call them, apparently. And these are just a few decks that I feel like they are a classic for me, but I just got them, so it's a bit premature to say it. So they get like an honorable Rising Star mention, that if you check back with me in a year, I think that these will be on them. And I'm gonna go from, in chronological order-ish, the last two I got within like days of each other, because spoiler alert, right now I'm in a phase where I'm having quite a few decks come in recently, like the Goliath Tarot, which the unboxing of that's up above, and two of these decks that you're going to see. But first, this is my Lunasol Tarot. And I didn't do an unboxing of this because this deck is just for me. So if I was doing the 7 decks for 7 sins tag, this would be my greedy deck. It's just me. It's just mine. You can't have it. I had a very profound experience where I ended up buying this deck when I realized how it's all about the sun and moon balance, which I talk a lot about in my channel, being someone who has the sun and moon balance baked into a place of prominence in my birth chart. And I love the pastel colors. I love how Rider-Waite-Smith clone-y it is. It does get different, but it's still very, it's a clean reader. So this is extremely similar to the This Might Hurt. And this is yet another thing that I was afraid would challenge the This Might Hurt Tarot. But it's got a fucking duality card. And so I had such an experience where I basically just got pummeled with messages where it became very obvious, like, I need this deck. This deck was made for me. This deck doesn't feel like me necessarily. I love this Ten of Swords. It's not my favorite. My favorite Ten of Swords is the Brady Tarot with that ridiculous opossum. It just felt like I needed it. It felt like I was meant to have this deck. And the funny thing is, I hadn't even connected the dots that, here's another favorite death card of mine, that Lunasol was like moon, sun, right? I didn't connect those dots. And so I connected them all very quickly, watched a walkthrough, got very emotional, and ordered this deck. And I use it a lot. I've used it for a few months, like two months for daily pulls. I use it when I'm feeling out of balance. I think this is gonna be a classic. It just feels still a little premature to say so. So this is my first Rising Star, and it is the one that I have had the longest. The next one I have not had very long at all. And I didn't film a first impressions walkthrough because we were out getting glasses and I didn't want to wait. I was bored and wanted to entertain myself, so I opened it. And this one I bought rather impulsively off feeling, which I will explain, and that is Raven Flan's Dreams of Gaia Tarot, the pocket edition, because it's matte and pretty. I've wanted this since I first saw it. And maybe that's because Maybe that's because I'm a 90s baby and this art very much reminds me of lots of things from my childhood. I don't know what it is, but I've wanted it for 5 years. And I always said I would buy it. And I think the thing that was holding me back was, A, the fact that I didn't really know tarot, and B, this one was different anyways. So it's very hard to hold it because it's so little. So what I ended up doing, I'm going to put it down because it's hurting my hands. I was watching, one day I decided to actually watch a flip through. So I watched Lisa's side-by-side flip through, because if I want to watch a flip through, Lisa's who I go to. She has lots of decks. So recently, this was like last week. It was last week, in fact. I decided to finally watch Lisa's walkthrough. And I watched it, and I swear, okay, I'll pick it back up. These figures, I swear I could hear them talk to me like the way Lisa describes the soul cards talking to her. I feel inspired by this deck. I feel like this is a really good deck to work with my intuition and work with just my psychic messaging. And here's a card I love so much. So I bought it in the little matte version, so that way I could have the nice cardstock. It's a wonderful size, which I love. And there's no obtrusive titles blocking my intuition, right? And I also bought the full-size version because my lady, my spouse, she was looking at this with me and she was like, oh, that's amazing. Oh, she also felt inspired to use it for like inspiration for making D&D characters and things, world building. And God, this is such a good card. They're so good. And I got both versions. I got the full-size version with the full-size guidebook, and I got this. And the way I figured was, well, I want a version and Z wants one to play with, and I really want the little one, but I want the full guidebook. So by getting both, it worked perfectly. I've got the guidebook out here with me, and if she wants to use the guidebook, all she's got to do is just let me know and use it. And we both have the deck. So I have the deck I can work with my intuition for a while and just see if I can get that sparking. And then I've got the guidebook so I can learn the system when I feel like I'm ready. So, purely on the premise that if this goes well, I think this would become a classic. That's why I've included it as a rising star. I do already feel quite attached to it, even though I haven't had it for very long. The question will be, will that attachment last? Because that's where I tend to have the issue. So, we shall see. And then my last rising star. I don't know when I'm going to put this video up. So I don't know if I'll try and put this up after I do the first impressions unboxing. But I've got some really exciting videos coming up. So, and lots of ideas. This last one I got last week again. It's the 28th as I'm filming, so I got this last week. I've had it like less than a week. This is my first edition Marielle Tarot. So I will try and hopefully you're seeing that video before you're watching this. If so, then it's linked up above in the cards, and go and check that out and you can hear more of my story. Because of how adverse I was to getting this deck at first, and then when I changed my mind and came to these Judgment Month realizations about myself, and about the way I've been trying to live. And oh, look at that Hanged Man. I knew this was going to be a big deal deck for me. And this, I talk about that, I'm pretty sure, in my unboxing. This is how I feel. Just from the image, this Temperance card is how I feel. I feel like that tiger treading water, desperately trying to get to a safe space so I don't get drowned by the water, by the emotions. This, if you connect with this deck, it seems to really shift things for people. And it's definitely a polarizing deck. I've done a few readings with it, and I do read the guidebook. Oh, there's the hard card. I do read the guidebook, and I do want to learn and practice and feel confident to read with it intuitively, because I think I can get intuitive hits off it. We're just getting to know each other. But the readings I've done, specifically one last night, which I'm not going to tell you what it was about, but I had a really emotional night last night. I had yet another big catalyst moment in my life about my spirituality and stuff last night. And I cried my face off. And I was talking to a friend and I was bitching and crying my face off. And then I pulled some cards about it with this. There's nothing bad happened. It's just a lot of emotions and a lot of stuff to process. And I pulled cards with this. And then I read the guidebook for the cards. And the messages were so powerful and so spot on. And I really felt like Spirit was talking to me, like my ancestors were talking to me, like divinity, God, goddess, any variety of those were talking to me. And that's become a feeling that I've become kind of close to. I've had moments, but this, already my time with this has been extremely profound. I want, with every fiber of my being, to just say it's a classic, even though I just got it. The only reason I'm not saying it's a classic is because I just got it. This one, I've bonded to it fast and hard, and I was very lucky to get a great conditioned copy for a very reasonable price of the first edition. And oh God, I just love it. I love it so much. And again, the only reason I'm not saying that this is a classic for me is because we're still getting to know each other. We're still learning. This was one of the cards I pulled last night. So was this one. This one, I'm confident will be a classic. The other two, my other two rising stars, I feel pretty good about them. I feel like it's a strong possibility. I'm not as confident as I am with my Marielle. I love this deck in a ridiculous amount. So, there you have it, of my whole collection. And I have I have a bunch of decks. Ow! I just scratched myself. Of my whole collection, and I have a bunch of decks. These are what I would call my classics. And I hope you found this enjoyable, watching and listening to me talk. I like talking, so I enjoy it. And I think I'm going to try and get myself to do more tarot tags, because there's lots of them that I would like to do. I admit I'm tempted to do the 10 pieces of my soul, but honestly, you probably just saw a few of them right here. Like, there's probably a lot of repeats, because in my tarot collection, I have a lot of decks, or I have a decent number of decks, and some of them I'm extremely attached to, and others I really want to attach to and bond with. But I'm not as attached to them. So there will likely be repeats, namely these two. And probably my Marielle as I get to know it. But yeah, that's my channel. That's what you get. My opinions and my thoughts and my journals and tarot and shit. So please let me know in the comments down below if you liked this video. I've asked in a recent video, I would really appreciate your feedback for how you're liking and enjoying my videos. I've been expanding my content, doing more vlog style videos, more tarot stuff, and I'm really loving it. So even if your feedback is negative, I'm probably going to still keep doing it, but I'd love to hear your feedback anyways. Especially if you have feedback like, I'm really enjoying this and I want you to do more of this, I'd love to hear that. If your feedback is, stop doing this, I'm only here for the journal stuff, oh well, I'm gonna keep doing it anyways because it's fun. Anywho, I would love your feedback. I would love your comments. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, because it really, 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 really helps too. And subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell notification. All of that fun stuff. My description box has the link for my Patreon, where you can become a patron and get extra bonus content. We do a couple monthly things, and I've started doing random vlogs for them, which is lots of fun. And I'm working on trying to develop and expand it and do more. There's a lot I'm learning about my life right now. And I feel like I'm making progress, and it's really scary and very overwhelming. But I have a patron, and if you want to hear more from me, you can join it. It's linked down below. If you would like a reading from me, I have a very unique style where I combine your personal astrology with tarot to answer inquiries. I have a Calendly linked that you can check out. And I think that's really all my links. There's a website coming. I'm working on it, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And that's it. I hope you had a good time here, and I hope you'll join me again soon. Lots of love.